We'll charge you the 20.
Start the recording.
Did you want that maybe
So the
like
bathroom.
You close that window.
There's actually this one though.
Yep. And then hit record.
I think it's behind,
Line.
record. I think this is level 3, but there's so much money.
No, I didn't know that. I
And then the Tesla.
Recording in progress.
Lois, double hex.
Oh, yeah.
There's some
But that's,
charges. Those are
that's
those are
that's Tesla.
Those, yeah. I don't
Use- I
support-
can't
don't
use that.
support Anything they do.
No, but I couldn't use it anyway.
Unmuted.
Yeah, right.
I don't want that either.
No, anything to do with him, he doesn't get $1.
All right, good evening, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started with tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for making it out on this lovely, warm evening. This is the third in the series, the final of the third of the three, reviewing the RFPs for the airport road property. Tonight, we're going to go over a quick introduction of the project, which I know many of you have already seen multiple times. We'll discuss just some general guidelines that we use for housing affordability. And then tonight, we're going to have a presentation and discussion of a proposal by Airport Properties LLC. We'll open up to comment from both the board first, the task force, and then the audience. And then tonight, we will be sitting tight a little bit longer because we will likely be discussing next steps on where we're going to take this to form our recommendation in any direction. Originally, these were scheduled for 2 nights. We added a third night because of wanting to keep it even between all 3 of the proposals. I will say that it was much nicer being in the library where the air conditioning was very comfortable. But tonight we'll be a little bit warmer. But thank you all for that understanding and showing up tonight. So here with us tonight, I'm Jonathan West. I'm the chair of this board of the task force, and I am a member of the select board. Tim Waker is the vice chair of the task force. He is the chair of the development review board. Joanne O'Connor is our secretary, and she's a climate and renewable energy advocate. John Burnham, who is not present tonight, is the executive director of the Manchester Business Association. Cindy Luce, who's joining us virtually, is the executive director of Habitat for Humanity of Bennington County. John Watanabe works in property management, is the chair of the Design Advisory Board and a DRB member. And Leon Ward is a designer and developer and a member of the Planning Commission. The property that we are discussing is the Airport Road parcel. It is roughly 60.15 acres. It is mostly wooded. There are 6.8 acres that are subject to a conservation easement. It is zoned MU2 or mixed use 2. 1 dwelling per 4,000 square feet and allows single, double, and multi-family development. Minimum lot size is about 1/4 acre. This is an outline of the property, the red line. To the west, you see Richville Road. To the east, US Highway 7. The property line does cut through what was the former airstrip. The property to the north is owned by the Levis family. Just to discuss what we look at as affordability, paying less than 30% of your income towards housing. For home ownership, that means that includes your mortgage, your taxes, and your insurance. And for rental, that includes your rent and your utilities. And what's always important to keep in mind is that housing that is affordable is different for each household. So that's why it's important to understand that the 30% mark for one person versus another person may be completely different. But we do need a broad range of affordable housing options. When we look at an example of how we determine what is affordable, we also look at the area median income. This is a factor that takes into account the average within an area, a locality. So in this case, we're looking at everywhere in Vermont, but Chittenden and Addison County. For one person, the area median income is presently 78,200. For a family of four, that's 111,700. Affordable housing with a capital A, if you will, applies to housing which qualifies for 80% of that area median income. So for a household of four, that they can, if they earn 89,360 or less, that would qualify them likely for subsidies or income restricted housing. The housing that is between 80 to 120 is generally referred to as workforce housing. There is some spillover into the affordable housing, but in general, it's 80 to 120.
Jonathan, did you say that 78,200 is the median income for the state?
No, yes and no. So what happens is that they use, there are three breakdowns. If you live in Chittenden County, where cost of living is higher, you have one set of rates. If you're in Addison, same thing. Every other county has a pretty relatively even amount, so that's why we use the remaining 11 counties to determine. But it's not use the same number. It's not like an area median for the entire thing, right? So this number tracks pretty closely.
I would be surprised to go around and find, I would think you could find a lot of people that are single family home owners, myself being one of them, that does not make 78,000.
And to be clear, this is area median income. This is not average income. So go back to mathematics in your 8th grade. Median is the quantity of them, the occurrence of them happening. So if you have 100, if you can't give a good example, but if you have 30, you basically count which is the middle occurrence of those happening. It's not the average. So our average is different than this, okay? So regardless, yes, we do use a number, and this is what's used by both HUD, and you can correct me on that, Cindy. HUD uses these numbers. They come up with these statistics, and that's used by the Vermont Housing Finance Authority.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. So what that does mean is that when we look at those price points or those income levels, right? If you were at 80, 100, or 120% of that area median income, if you took the 30% of that and said, okay, how much of my annual income can I use towards housing? These are the numbers. If you were right at 100%, that's 33,510. If you're 80%, it's 26,000. When you bake that out into a monthly rate, that's in the $2,200 to $3,300 range. That's your affordability. Now, again, like I said, every household is different. Every makeup is different. So that's why it's important to keep this. This is a baseline, right? Looking at home ownership, that means that you would have the affordability to own a home somewhere in the range of $330,000 to $475,000. In rental, that means you could afford $2,200 to $3,300 per month in your rent. The problem is this: as of last week, in that range of $330,000 to $475,000, we had 3 homes that could fit a family of 4. They ranged between the first house, which is a 3.2 at $379,000, and 2 homes that are in like a homeowners association that are a 3.3 at $445,000 and $475,000. So that could accommodate essentially 3 families. What I did take out is a 1-bedroom that was less and a for sale by owner. So given the complexity of how many homes we need, this are the options for a family for earning 100%. Yeah.
Are the Jameson flats permitted as privately subsidized workforce housing homes at $800,000 a piece?
I believe that is the case. Yeah.
They're permitted as privately subsidized workforce housing.
Yes. That's what I'm aware of, yes. Mhm. Let's come back to that in a second. Let me get to make sure we have the time for but we will come back to that in a second. Very quickly so that we make sure that we're on time here. To understand how our population is cost burdened, this is the percentage of Manchester residents that are over 30% or over 50% of their income paying towards housing. We have 30% of our renters paying over 30%. So roughly a third of our renters are paying over 30% of their income. And an additional 19% are paying over 50% of their income. So it's a large quantity. The housing needs assessment that was addressed in 2024, which was a compilation between the state and local and county agencies, determined that the estimated 6-year target to address housing needs would be a rate of 200 units over 6 years, at a 5-year annual average of 13.2 permits per year in the town of Manchester. We will not meet that target. So if anyone wants to go and take a look at this data, I encourage you to go to housingdata.org. It is updated very frequently with the most up-to-date data for short-term rentals, for housing data throughout the state, and uses several different models in order to provide this. And it's all very easy to use, free, and you can download it and slice and dice it how you want. So that was it for my initial spiel. I would like to get moving into our first presentation, which tonight is Airport Properties LLC. And if you are going to speak tonight, and this applies to people on Zoom, as well as here on the board and in the audience, if you do speak, I ask that you please come to the podium and please identify yourself before speaking. So Brent Herman, if you want to, or whoever's going to present.
Good evening. My name is Chris Panesi from Mans Engineering. Brent asked me to aid with his presentation for the project. I know a lot of you know me. I'm an engineer here in town. Recently just moved out of town into Sunderland, but doing a lot of projects in town. But here talking about Airport Properties LLC, what is being proposed is development on a portion of the 60-acre parcel for 20 acres of it to put in approximately 40 to possibly up to 50 single-family residential units on lots that are roughly a third acre in size. So what this does is creates more of a neighborhood feel, property ownership at a relatively affordable price. The infrastructure would be, roadways, water and sewer, power brought, in coordination with the town, being brought to the property, possibly by the town, and then all the infrastructure on site done by the developer. Going through, depending on the amount of units that go through with the sketch plans and then through permitting, it's anticipated not obtaining an Act 250 permit at this time if it meets the regulations for exemption or going through, but creating, town water and sewer permits, state water and sewer permits, stormwater permits, and any other permits that are necessary for the construction. The houses themselves would be within the 800 to 1,000 square foot range, single story. They would have crawl space or slab on grade construction for the foundation, multiple color choices, but they'd be, like I said, a ranch style house with a 712 pitched roof. So upgraded differently than some of the houses you're probably thinking about ranch style. You know, they could be 30 by 30 square, 30 by 30 in length and width, 26 by 38, 24 by 40, you know, somewhere in that general range for different size houses. Going through parts of the houses themselves, they'd be 2 to 3 bedroom. You know, 2 to 3 bedroom. If you look at state regulations for water and sewer, that's 4 to 6 people in the household. You know, everything's designed by 2 people per bedroom for the first 3 bedrooms, and then 1 person after that. So this would accommodate, say, a family of 4. They would have 1 to 2 bathrooms, depending on the house or the size, whether it's 800 or 1,000 square feet. And going through, but one of the biggest things is the creation of that neighborhood, having a yard that you can manage and take care of, not having it all maintained by a larger like maintenance contractor and HOA fees where all the mowing is done at once. This way you can, you know, people can build pride in their own personal residences. At this time, it was planned to have gravel roadways, gravel driveways, grass-lined swales for stormwater conveyances, and then obviously all the other infrastructure subsurface. One of the, I think the bigger things, depending on the way prices have continuously been increasing ever since the pandemic. And as some of you who are in the business get weekly or monthly updates from suppliers, and especially like RK Miles, Joe's very good about telling people what's going on with pricing. And then everything that's going on with the government with tariffs, prices always change. But looking at something like this, with being able to sell a residential home on its own lot, you know, fully constructed, ready to move in the range of anywhere between 250 to 275,000. And again, prices increase. You know, the sooner it's something is done, obviously, usually the less expensive it would be done. But if the, you know, projects go out multiple years, you're be looking at 10, 15, 20% increases. This project would be in collaboration with the town. So once roadways and infrastructure are installed, certified, you know, it'd be looking to the town to take over the maintenance of them. So especially the roadways and the water and the sewer. Obviously
Jonathan.
power is. Excuse
Something
me.
is gone with the sound. We're not hearing Chris.
That's funny because I'm really loud.
Did something happen with your sound?
Can you hear me?
Red button now.
It's me. Can you hear me? Okay, hold on 1 second. Hey, Steve, can you hear me?
You can.
Not hearing anything.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Steve. Yeah, so I think it
Is
might be
anybody else
Cindy.
that's online
Maybe
hearing?
Take off her headphones.
Maybe take off your headphones, Cindy,
Text me.
Headphone.
headphones.
Because we can barely hear her as well.
I do, I just texted her.
She can't hear, she can't see you. It's too small on the screen.
Yes. Yeah, so, yeah, and it's playing on.
You just gotta hear you because she's the one you have to get past.
So she said, go ahead and keep going. She's gonna try to figure out what's going on.
But she hears enough of me since I'm also on the board of directors for Habitat.
There you go.
Okay, so to continue, you know, when we're looking at affordable houses, it's something that I do actually with Cindy is we look at keeping those prices down so that they can stay in that range that we've been talking about. Being a person that does projects that range from usually $400 to $1,200 a square foot on a residence, something like this, what's being proposed, with this size housing and the way they would be constructed, you're talking more like between 160 to 200 a square foot, depending on size, features, and what else is going on. You know, this, a preliminary layout was, supplied that had just over 50 lots on it. Looking at it, you know, it probably ended up being reduced into that 40 to 45 range, somewhere in there. Just accounting for different state requirements such as stormwater and treatment and stuff like that with the town, or excuse me, with the state, but you know, that area is definitely needed. Depending on keeping that neighborhood feel, maybe a small plot of land again for a small community park, to have a small open grassed area for get-togethers, or, you know, maybe some playground equipment or something for that area. Overall, again, this would be, you know, a collaboration with the town, working through some of the utilities and then some of the accesses and then maintenance afterwards. But overall, again, it's a portion of the property, being about a third of it, for, you know, creating 40, what we would say, extremely affordable homes. So that's the basic overview, and I would love to answer any questions that you might have. If any.
Well, I do have,
No,
okay, I have quite a few. 45 to 50, I'm looking at the map you've supplied, it has terrain on it,
Yes,
which is great. You can see the terrain, because I know it's pretty up and down through there.
yes.
Do you think there's any possibility of putting more than this? Or why would you stop at 45? Why wouldn't we do more than 45 homes?
Right, this would be more like, you know, going through it, it's taking a phased approach. You know, this is, again, a collaboration, but a brunt of the financial and construction would be on others than the town. So to go through and do this in a phased approach makes more sense. You know, this would be ultimately designed to have connections or to the rest of the property or whatever other developments might be done. But to go through and take a small step to try to get housing into the community faster, I think is what our approach would be. So, because something like this, especially if Act 250 amendments, or it can be exempt, you're talking about getting through a process like this in 6 to 9 months. That means you're talking about construction next year, if it was gonna go quicker. Otherwise, you could be looking at 2027, 2028, depending on the size of it. And at that point, a lot of the things, especially if you go in through Act 250, the biggest things that they have is, if you're going to do a huge, save, you know, $5-6 million project, is you're paying a fee to the state for all the construction that you're doing. So it doesn't make it affordable when you're writing $100,000 or $200,000 checks to the state just for them to review your applications. So that is one of the key items, is to try to stay under that for now. And then going through with water, wastewater, and stormwater, as you know, those are very expensive utilities. Water and wastewater, I mean, allocation fees from the town, which this does not include, but it includes the infrastructure going in. They're very expensive. Stormwater, continually maintained every year with fees. So this approach takes a reasonable approach at trying to get it in now at an affordable price. That's the way that you can get to those numbers.
If I'm looking at this map correctly, you're building up on the airstrip, is that correct? Or am I not looking at it correctly?
Correct. And this would include land grading. So our contours, those are 1 foot contours. So when they're a lot of them scrunched together, it's not as steep as you would think.
Isn't a lot of the land, the airstrip, built of fill that was from the hotel? I mean, didn't they put a lot of that in when they built that strip? So isn't it a bit unstable?
So I wasn't here when they built it, so it's really hard.
The south end? Okay,
I've only been in town working for about 20 years.
yeah, I know, but.
I was there a little bit before that.
All right,
But yeah, this is, again, when you're looking at the price, you know, the average price per square foot, and then all the other fees like utilities and everything on top of it, staying in that range to have a 2 to 3 bedroom house, again, for, you know, anywhere between 4 and 6 people, Yeah, it's gonna be a modest sized house, yeah, but also a modest price. If it sells for $260,000 or $270,000, I didn't see any of those on there, but I saw probably one of those was probably a similar size house. Maybe a little bit smaller, but again, you're talking about high efficiency, low utilities for these kind of houses.
Size wise, would you compare it more to like the neighborhood of Hillville?
Probably similar.
Say in neighborhood size?
And you know, you're talking about like the ones at Jameson Flats, those are 1,200 to 1,400 square feet. Selling for whatever they're gonna sell for. When it was originally permitted, because I did the project, it was 350 to 400,000 or 450. It's gone up a little bit since then. Well, I'm not the one selling them. I just did permitting.
During COVID, that's why, you know.
Well, there's a lot of things. But when we're looking at that, you know, going through and keeping those houses affordable. One of the other ones that I've had experience with is the Jennifer Lane, which is the Habitat. You know, those houses end up being sold at a loss in the 250 to 260, and they're 250, 260,000 range, or somewhere in there. Cindy would know better. But again, they're 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 square feet. They're on the modest size. Some are smaller than others, depending on which ones they are. But again, in this day and age, that's one of the reasons to have a little bit of outdoor space, have a yard, you know, to do that. You're not, you know, into a rental apartment where you have nothing. This way you have a yard, you can use your outdoor space. You can have a little bit of a community space, you know, try to build that neighborhood feel.
Greenhouse gases.
Yes.
The state and we here in Manchester have certain goals to meet greenhouse gas emissions, and we're not meeting those at this point. So I'm wondering, in my mind, anything we build now, we should be building with heat pumps. Heat pumps. Will you be doing that? What's that? No? Why is that? Are you part of his?
Yeah.
Oh,
Brent, sorry, so the people,
I don't know.
no, can you come up to the mic? Sorry.
Brent Herman. Yeah, the heat pumps, I'm totally against them. I put some in my house. It raised my price of my house heating astronomically. I do not believe in them. So
How would you heat these homes?
propane,
Pain?
yep. That's how we have them priced.
So, you know, I could, personally, I also have, heat pumps, and when I use them for heat, my power bill goes to $800 in the wintertime. So, but for cooling, I think they're fantastic because it's very cheap. But, you know, when we're looking at that, well, the one thing that I would look into is when we get our power, if you haven't noticed, everyone's power bill has gone up. Since our power, half of it's imported from Canada. And I understand that they do a lot of, what they would consider, renewable with, Hydro-Quebec and a lot of theirs do. But what they don't tell you is they wipe out thousands of acres of forest to create that, which again, does not help the environment as well. That and then the stress on our power grid, unless the nuclear thing does come back, I think greenhouse gases to create that electrical load are going to be in your coal and natural gas and fired power plants as well. But that's more personal opinions on that.
Solar?
Solar is a possibility. With everything that's going on, I don't think it would be an affordable project.
What?
I don't believe it would be an affordable project. Because I think you're looking at, well, last time I did a solar field, I've done a couple, one in town and then a few in the surrounding towns. The infrastructure is outrageously expensive for what it does provide. I think it's a benefit, but again, to do a 40-unit housing project, I think the cost would raise each, make it more of a non-affordable house in the long run.
Hold on a second, Carl. 1 second. Yeah, we're gonna go through the task force first.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. So basically we're talking between $160 and $200 a square foot.
As of today's pricing. something in there.
So the 250, the 275, that difference is the infrastructure cost.
Correct.
And all that type of stuff.
Yes, you mean the differences between possibly a $260,000, $270,000 house? That would be your roadways, your water, your sewer, and all the infrastructure, yes.
160 at 800. Let's say it was 160 a square at 800 square feet, that's 128,000. So back 250, back 128 out of 258, you're left with 130.
Yeah.
Plus, you're looking at the land cost. This proposal creates a payment to the town when each lot is sold or each house is sold. So there's those costs and all the other costs that go along.
Thanks.
I know the proposal shows the infrastructure coming across the Levis land and there's an estimate there. Is there an estimate put together coming across Richfield if you could not come across? Do you have an estimate put together for that roughly?
That I would actually ask Brent on. You're talking about power, water, and sewer. I'm assuming
Well, and that's what the proposal takes into account. So I'm curious to know, if that was not an option,
I'll bring that-
have another option available.
I mean, bringing it up,
Airport Road.
Airport.
We looked at that at the beginning, and then the Levis property was brought up. If we have to come from Richford Road, that just drives the price up.
I'm aware of that. I was just curious, in the event that it could not come across the Levis property, do we have an estimate as to what the infrastructure might look like coming up Airport Road?
I do, but I don't have it with me here. We based it on this originally.
Would it be $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million? I wouldn't have a clue.
Yes. You'd be in the million range.
So we do have just so for clarification, Chrissy Haskins did, as part of the planning for this potential sewer upgrades, that was a piece of the structure. The number, if I'm remembering correctly, was close to 2 million, if I remember, for that leg. That doesn't include any of the other ancillary pieces. That's also before we understood the percentage of available usage that was available in that pump house, which, as we've determined, there is sufficient plenty for multiple projects.
right, and room for additional storage if wanted to be installed, correct? And I do know a lot about that since I have been working on one of the projects that is planning to connect to it.
Okay, so, oh, Cindy, did you have any questions? Sorry. No.
Not right now. Thanks.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yes, she's back. So I'm looking at, and for everyone that's also here, the plan calls for an amount of money to go back to the town for each lot that is sold, in the amount of $20,000. And the town would waive all permit fees for water and sewer, et cetera. Would there be, in this case, would the parcel still remain in the town's ownership? And we would essentially lease it out to you for the use of the space, and then you would sell the lots back? Or how was the plan on that?
I would say, obviously it would be after, you're talking about doing a boundary survey and the subdivision plats. The overall ownership, I think, would be, again, with the collaboration, it could be held in the town's name. And then taking payment as houses do sell.
And one of the concerns that I think any lower priced home coming on the market in a market that is salivating for that price point would likely create potential for those to be a hot commodity, and they would not be available potentially for the workers that you're aiming at trying to fit into those homes. How do you plan on that piece of the puzzle, ensuring that they stay affordable, and also the criteria for how you bring folks in and to get them in there?
So that could be very tough. And coming from sitting on a board that does this, to try to keep a house perpetually affordable is very tough to do. Even alone with Habitat, we don't actually do a lot of that ourselves. We do a lot of the background work, but other agencies that are in that for affordable housing, it's really tough to do. But what the experience that I've had in town is that, yes, they would definitely try to be a hot commodity, because when Jameson Flats was being completed, you know, it was wanted to be in that range we talked about before, and he wanted to keep it to Vermonters only that were local for the first 3 years. And you know, I don't even think any of them were sold, if not maybe one of them has, but going through, it's really hard to do that. It's try to put that affordable like deed restriction. So you'd be shopping around for people and having them qualify to try to be perpetually affordable when they sell it. It does make it for a very tough, like a program to do that.
Like Habitat, the shared equity, that's the program, the model that Cindy, you have, right?
Right.
Yeah. So is that something that could be implemented with housing that you'd be developing?
It is possible, and it's something that can always be looked into. You know, looking to try to keep everything as it is. If the houses they sell for that, you know, there's going to be, if that's what they can be built for, they turn around and might appraise for more. But if you put a perpetual affordability on them, you have to also start adjusting your tax base on those, because you're limiting the future sale of the house or the occupancy of the house possibly to be a certain number. And that makes it less desirable for people sometimes to live in.
A question I had, is there a way, and I know what you're talking about, the affordability, but if you put, my thought was when the houses are sold, could you put a 3% per year cap on the future sale of the house? So you could not mark the house up, or you couldn't sell it for more than 3% per year over and above your actual initial purchase price? Or would you run into a problem doing that?
Well, that does if someone makes improvements to a house. So say if someone holds it for a few years and then drops $80,000 into it, they're going to want to recover that.
Right, but again, if we're trying to keep it affordable,
Right.
it's workforce, we're trying to keep it affordable. If they want to put 100, 200,000 in it, well, I mean, that's their prerogative.
Mhm.
If we're trying to keep it affordable, a house like this, you could build, someone could buy it today for 275, whatever, sell it tomorrow for 450.
Mhm.
And then our affordable housing's gone.
Mhm.
So my thought was that if we capped it at 3% a year, you could put $1 million, you know, you could put $1 million if you want, don't care.
Right.
But to try to keep it affordable, I think that's the only way to work, but that's
So
an idea.
when I speak about collaboration, these are the items that I'm talking about. Going through, working with the town to try to make this happen. We can't give you every answer right now. We can give you the best possible way to move towards that answer. But some people might not be interested in, some people probably would rush right in, don't get me wrong. But some people will look at it and say, well, if I do buy that, how do I build equity? If another pandemic hits, being someone that lives I live out of town because honestly, I can't afford to live in town. I'm right in that workforce housing. I can't afford to live here. I live in Bennington now, and my house went up $200,000 because of the pandemic. I mean, good for me, but you know, even if I sell that, I can't afford to buy up here because of the pricing. So people are going to do what is best for them and protection of them. something like that is a good idea, but if something happens, you know, again, in our country or in the world or something like that, it'd be hard to really limit that. It might make it less desirable to some. But it is it is a good idea and a good option. One of the other things is, you know, when you go through your subdivision regulations and go through in the permitting, there are, you know, bonuses that are allowed for that and keeping it affordable. And the Jennifer Lane one was one that was said it would keep 100% affordable. That's very tough to do. It really limits the amount of people that can purchase the house.
I guess it does, but I think if we're looking for workforce housing and that's what the towns, that's what our board, I think, is what we're looking for, then I don't see where you're coming here to live here, to get a job here. If you decide to move, all of a sudden you get a good job and you're making in the $150,000, $200,000 range, then you could go buy somewhere else. I think to get the people into town, the police, rescue, nurses, doctors, wherever they want to come here, they just can't afford to come here. And if we don't, I think if the town puts effort into it and we all put effort into it, if it becomes 5 years down the road, it's all gone. We don't have a chance to start over again, I don't think. And I think we're in the position that it's a one-shot deal, and if we don't get it, it'll never happen. I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Right.
That's just my take.
Right. But again, we're looking at 30% of the land or 33% of the land.
Stan.
You have 3 chances if you want to do 3 of these type of developments in the future. So again, nothing's going to be perfect, but we can try to make it as best as we possibly can moving forward.
These would be stick-built, right? Not modulars.
No, they would be modular.
It would be modular.
There's,
Oh, okay.
they're all, stick built, but in a factory,
Yep.
Factory. And where's the factory?
Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania.
Cindy, you've got your hand up. And we can't hear you.
Sorry, there you go. I agree with you, Tim. I think we need to figure out some way to, the town works with whoever we're selecting, that we make this, that it's, they can't buy a house and flip it quickly and make, because we know if you stay in a house a few years and there's no restrictions on it of some sort, anyhow, you can turn around and flip it for more than what you bought it for. And that's the concern the whole task force has been worried about, right? So I think as we were talking at the various presentations, that the town can actually say to the developers, these are some of the stipulations. And I think we just need to work with whoever we're going to work with certain stipulations like that. I do like the idea this is a smaller, like you're only taking, 20 acres, like you guys said, and doing a smaller project.
So you can do anything with a deed restriction that is relatively legal. And when I say relatively legal is I've seen deeds in the few states that I've worked in that say they can only sell this property to certain types of people. And I'm not want to go into races or anything like that, but I've seen deeds that have actually said that. That's illegal to do that. But to say that if you do sell this house, you are capped at a certain percentage, that is absolutely legal to do. And people agree to that when they sign their deeds. So again, we're not here with it because this type of development is going to have a lot of restrictions on it. It's going to have, the same standards, you're not keeping unregistered cars and fixing your car right in your front lawn for 6 months at a time, those kind of things. This would be another one of those restrictions in a homeowners association and then deeded with land because you can do those kind of restrictions.
What would be a HOA?
There would have to be, yes.
So there would be fees on top of the.
Well, right, and there would be, depending whether it's collaboration with the town or if it's done privately with the owners. Normally, whoever the developer is aids with until a certain amount of lots are sold. However, the state of Vermont will not give an individual stormwater permit when they're building a subdivision like this. There has to be an HOA. It is a dead law that there has to be an HOA. So it would have to be created.
HOA almost mean that you have to pay, whereas an HOA is sort of an agreement that in this community, we're gonna agree you have to pay your house, like, and have cars out.
Right, and that's those, right, there are usually fees that go along with it, but those fees are not, you know, taken by people that have salaries or anything. They're paying for in this instance, it'd be like the stormwater, maintenance and whatnot to do that. If the town wouldn't take ownership over the road, it would be grading the roads out, you know. If they wanted to do community trash collection, so everything's picked up from one supplier on one day, you can do that, so they all pay their trash, or they can do it separately. It depends on the kind of community you want to develop.
You did say that the individual property owners would be responsible at least for their lawns.
Right, and then that's usually the way you would want to keep it. Because if you wanted to have one person go in and mow and maintain everyone's lawn, you know, do their weed whacking, do their beds, your fees are going to be upwards of $500 to $1,000 a month. I think EOB is a perfect example of that. They own from the outside of or the middle of their wall, or however they figure out outside of the wall in. They don't do their roofs, they don't do their outside, they don't do their propane tanks, they don't do their landscaping. And the last time I heard, which was a few years ago, last time I was there doing a job, it was over $1,000 a month for an HOA fee. So that's not what we're looking to try to create.
We don't want HOA fees. We want houses to be owned by the
Right.
people.
We don't want HOA fees.
But there would have to be, depending whether, if there would, for the stormwater alone, there would have to be some kind of small fee to
I think,
maintain the storm.
I think you could do that. You could, the people could own their houses. I mean, we have a place over in Wyndham. We have the same thing. We own the roads, but there's an HOA that takes care of the plowing of the roads. So you could own your house, your lot, but the road and the detention pond or whatever,
Yeah.
that could be a common area. And then the HOA would take care of just those few items, not the mowing, not the painting.
So it would be planned to have these roads be owned by the town. Now, I understand that the town normally doesn't take over roadways anymore like they used to in the past because it's expensive and it adds taxes to everyone. But that's one of the ways to make this affordable, is to have the town maintain the roadways. The stormwater is the only thing that I can think of off the top of my head right now that would deliberately maintain a fee because the state charges you for your impervious areas every year when you do a permit. So if this has 3 or 4 acres of impervious, you're talking about a $1,200 fee a year just to go to the state. And they don't do any maintenance. They just hound you to pay it and do your annual inspections.
Mentioned gravel driveways.
Correct.
And gravel roadways.
Correct. Because paving that roadway would be probably upwards of $500,000 to $1 million, I'd imagine. Okay. But again, that having a paved driveway, $15,000-$20,000 maybe, depending on the size of the driveway and where the house is located per house. Again, coming off the affordability, the paved roadways. Paved roadways, you know, you're still going to have, you know, this includes like culverts and ditching, but you might have to do a little bit of curbing here and there, depending on the paved roadway, maybe not. But again, it just adds costs. Again, we weren't proposing sidewalks at this time because sidewalks add cost. Once you start doing all of this, you're turning a workforce housing project into something that's right down the street that is $800,000. Minus the construction that went in the house themselves. That's paved, common heat, water, sewer, stormwater, everything in with it. Again, plus the construction, it is not an affordable or workforce house at this point.
Have you thought about EV chargers, electric cars, charging stations or charging?
Houses now normally are voltage or amped up enough with a 200 amp service that they would be able to accommodate that. But we would not be installing one in every house because again, people in that range usually can't afford a $75,000 to $100,000 car.
Well, they're not that.
I want to make sure that the folks who have questions out here still have enough time. I did want to just make a reminder that it's not just folks moving to Manchester. It's also folks that are struggling to stay in Manchester. Just today, I had an example of someone who has devoted their entire life to this community and is extremely involved in many aspects, who is facing basically eviction in a year or so. And to have the same house that they currently have, or the same housing they currently have, they will need to triple what they currently pay in rent to save. So that's the drain that we'll have if something isn't solved. So the first person that had their hand up and has had it up, I think, for almost 55 minutes. So I have to give him a gold star for this. But Steve, if you're ready, go ahead.
There's several things, and I definitely, Tim, agree with you of the town task force and or select boards need to come up with criteria, because we don't want a developer or a homeowner go in there and, well, it's going to cost $275,000 for a home now, and by 2027, they're going to be $500,000 like Jameson Flat. And the taxpayers are going to take some type of this burden amongst themselves. And I have to say, I do, because there's such a problem with housing, agree that the taxpayers should put the water and sewer in and that type of thing, and even maintain the road. But we have to understand this puts another cost burden and a labor burden on our services that are in town. So we have to watch that too. And my question is, Chris, are there going to be any rentals?
No, this would be home ownership only.
Okay, so
Again, deed restricted for no Airbnb and things like that. Again, that's those things you restrict in that age.
and that's what's got to go, Jonathan, in your criteria that you, toward the end of these discussions, should put forth to these developers that this is what we have to have. And I do have to commend you, Chris and Brent, on a fine presentation, because I think the board has gotten more out of this presentation than I did with the due presentation. The more information you obtain, the better this project is going to result in. And we too have to remember, we have to protect our existing taxpayers. Thank you.
Steve. Yeah. Carl. Carl, I'm sorry. Can you please?
Carl Buckhold, live in Manchester. My first question to you, Chris, is if these units are going to be built in Pennsylvania, will they meet the Vermont residential building energy standards?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Second, I'm looking at this map. If it's oriented correctly, there's very little possibility of the homeowners putting solar panels on. So I wondered, why couldn't you orient these homes so the long axis is east-west, so you can put solar panels on the roof, and you can also gain solar gain through the windows just by orientation.
This is not what's exactly being proposed to be built. This was provided as a guide of what we want to do. That it will definitely change, you know, because we're talking about layout of utilities, especially stormwater, which takes room. This will change, but again, this is also the portion of the land that was looked at, because to try to keep it affordable, that we feel that it could make that.
Okay.
And
But is
that's,
there any reason why you couldn't orient the homes? So
no, they're just shown in a row type house because this was done to do it as a sample. This is just providing, this is a basis of kind of what we're looking at. Again, we're also talking about around 40 homes. There's over 50 homes. You know, there could be anywhere between that range, but this is just being provided, so you don't have to imagine it. You can look at it and then move on from there.
Another question I want to make sure I understand this. I'm a big fan of heat pumps. And the cost of cooling with a heat pump is 1/6 the amount of energy as a regular air conditioner. So I've been outside today, and this is not going to be an anomaly. It's going to get hotter and hotter. This global warming is not a myth. It's really happening. And so I think it's as important to put a heat pump in for cooling as it is for heating. And I just don't understand why you wouldn't do that and orient the homes so that people could put solar panels on and basically And once they pay the panels off, they're heating and cooling for free.
The heat pumps.
Heating will never be free.
My understanding is that the bigger ducted heat pumps that you put outside are the ones that are gonna be better at heating an entire house. But there's so many incentives through the state right now that I think that if it makes it more, again, we're gonna always come back to this. Can you build your way into an affordable unit? You guys seem like, closer than anybody else I've heard. But I think there's a lot of incentives through the state, so if you put in propane heat, as a homeowner making under a certain threshold of 80,000, I could then go and add a heat pump as an auxiliary form of heating and cooling, which I think is almost like maybe the more standard use that that people will use them for effectively. Really great in the summer, but in the winter time, normally you're gonna still need an auxiliary form of heating.
Well, Chris was engineering two of the houses that are built on my road. And they were, I don't know, $2 million homes. They have heat pumps for heating and cooling. They work
I'll
down
give
to
you an
20 below
example.
zero.
Where do you live?
By the way, I saw.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Green
It was a
Mountain
while ago.
Power.
You did a very good job with these two houses.
So I will say, because we're running up on time here, Carl, is one of the things that has been discussed, and I want to make this clear to everyone, is that we have a group that has been working on an energy network, which if combined would provide cost savings on trenching, getting pipes for sewer. You could run the lines in the same and get 30% of the, you can share the burden of the costs based on this. So that's kind of where we're going on some of the energy efficiency things. And there's been a pretty in-depth study on that here. So I don't want to go too deep into that at all. I want to make sure that we have time for one more question. Adam, you've got your hand up.
You can tell Steve to put his
Yes.
hand down. It never did go down.
Go ahead, Adam, we can hear you.
Great. So there was a little bit of a discussion on the cost of running utilities into these homes, and I guess just wanted to ask the question again about assumed costs that would be bared by the town in order to bring utilities to these homes.
So this proposal is the town bringing it to the main property. And then everything else from the property boundary in would be done by the developer.
And with an understanding of that and hearing your the amount of work you do in town, do you have an estimate of what it would cost the town to bring utilities to that demarcation point?
310, okay. 300, like in the proposal here, it's 310.
I was crossing over.
That's
Right.
Yes.
Did you hear that, Adam?
310,000.
That's conversing the Levis property, not up Airport Road.
Okay.
Not including any future tariffs. Because they're nuts sometimes.
Tariffs, is that what you said?
Not including any increases that can randomly pop up, because as some projects in town have found out, trying to buy American pipe sometimes is not possible.
Okay.
For the water.
My last comment is to reiterate the use of heat pumps as a heating and cooling source, and my experience in utilizing other building techniques that layer into heat pumps being a very efficient source of heating and cooling for residents, and when utilized with tight building exterior and proper insulation, things of that nature do help to control costs. And so I think that there's thoughtful approaches to the full building that would allow for efficient and sustainable sources of heating and cooling.
I'm gonna go back to what's a sustainable source for power then? Because the way I see development going, it's gonna be rough with power, especially with electric cars.
That's just like the wood pellets, they're a big thing. Everybody was going wood pellets. That was the going thing. Wood pellets prices just kept going up. Green Mountain Power's, their prices, I deal with them every day. Their prices, the cost of these cars, all the benefits are all that the government's giving going away on all that. So this big electric craze that's going on is, from what I see, is going south already.
We've reached the 7 o'clock mark. So, I would like to thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And, if we have any questions, we will absolutely reach out.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to all three of the groups that have presented. The next item on our agenda for tonight is just to discuss next steps. We can't, no, because it wasn't, we're gonna have to discuss that because in a deliberative session, because we are not a body that can make a decision that would change something, meaning like vote to a sense of contract. It also wasn't warned.
Can you speak to it?
Sorry.
What?
Sorry, he was asking about a deliberative session. So an executive, basically an executive session.
Not executive, well, just close. Close deliberative session, which we could, I don't see why we can't do that.
I would err on the side of not doing that today.
Okay.
I think we need to set our guidelines when we're gonna meet. If there's anything else that we need to bring in from any of the groups, help us make a decision and a timeline. So, I mean, that's sort of my first question. Are there any materials that we would need or questions that we may have from the other groups that we feel is important to determine our recommendation?
I don't have any.
Yeah, I've made all my notes, so I know.
Okay. Is there, oh, Cindy, did you have a point?
But sorry, this technology. Do we all feel comfortable with, like last week's presentation was talking a lot about the land trust, and Leon, you were going to talk about having someone come in from Champlain Valley, land trust, the Champlain Land Trust, to talk to the board or the task force, so we all understand. Sorry, so we all understand what how that all works. I mean, because I think there was some confusion, in my opinion. There was some confusion last week when Paul Carocchio's group presented, where we were going to be, the town was actually holding the land. Does everybody understand what that means, or do we need more information on the task
I can
force?
contact someone from the land trust if you wanted some more information on it, but I'm not sure that would really, I think we really should probably talk about the proposals we have, and then we can discuss setting up the land trust later. I think that should be on our radar, but not at this stage. Right now, we should just be deciding who's the best to build, and then we'll decide on the land trust.
Well, that is part of the decision for last week. That's part of their plan for last week. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. So,
Okay, so maybe I think it would be good for some clarification.
Okay.
Just so that we have the right definition and we understand it as best as possible.
When we have our next meeting, I will contact
Okay.
someone to to call in to us.
And that was with Champlain.
Yeah.
In terms of the criteria, I know obviously we've got, you know, a potential question mark around whether we have all the materials that we need to make a decision. Without getting into specifics of each plan, what do we believe are those key elements that we want as the like guiding criteria? And this doesn't have to be a complete list.
In my mind, the phasing of these developments is something that I'd like to understand a little bit more. Like Brent's is pretty straightforward. Single phase, 40 houses. The others were, you know, there was a little bit of ambiguity as to how many different phases and how does that integrate with the market homes as well? Are we talking about all of the workforce housing done at once at the first phase, or is it integrated into the general scope of the 60-acre development? So I'd like to kind of understand how the workforce housing component integrates into the full development.
I believe they said, John, that they were putting it into each phase would have some workforce housing.
But I'd like to kind of know a little bit more
Of it.
about that. I mean, I understand part of it, but I mean, right now, we're talking about 40 houses on a single phase within two, 3
And
years.
they're all affordable.
Exactly.
Right.
The select board can reach out, we can talk about what our questions are. But I would assume the select board could reach out to the three proposals to act, if they've got questions, ask them.
We actually can as well.
I mean, I think that would be
yeah,
your,
that would be, I would be on that part.
I think
of
that would be up to the select board to do that. We will be giving the select board a recommendation, what our thoughts are, but if there's more information needed, maybe they can.
No, I actually was told that that was something that we should do if we needed more communication.
Okay.
So if I fully intend to reach out to all three of the proposals and at least at bare minimum, say thank you. We are, you know, working on a recommendation. If we have any questions, we'll reach out and then follow that up with any subsequent communications.
I would say that every plan that we've heard has its flaws. There's no perfect plan that we've heard. Yeah, this plan tonight, I mean, it sounds great on the surface because it's all affordable. But when you put that many houses that close together on a straight road and it's all dirt and dust, and there's no AC in the house, so you open your windows to have, you're breathing in that dust from the road with every car going by. And that's a horrible way to live. And I wouldn't want to subject anybody to that. So if Herman can come up with a way to say, okay, we can put heat pumps in these houses so you can close your window, then the dirt road's fine. But if otherwise, we have to look at paving it. Because the quality of life is going to be greatly diminished for anyone living there. So there's certain things that I look at as if I were to be buying or living there, that I would not want to put someone there. It's just not gonna, it's not gonna reflect what I want to live in Vermont for. I want to live in Vermont for clean air. And, you know, it's not gonna have that. So there's ways that we can, with each plan though, if we can figure out a way to mix all three of these developers into different parts of the land, I think we could come out with a perfect plan of what we want for to see happen there. And the cost can offset each section in order to make it affordable, make at least, I mean, I want to do like 80 houses that are affordable. That would be great. You know, if we had to build other more expensive apartments or homes there that are more expensive and to offset it, that works too.
So from what I'm hearing is that in general, you know, we may have some more further questions. We have some clarifications on housing trust as one of the proposals does have, you know, a shared equity / home ownership or that the property is physically owned by the town of Manchester and then leased. And then discussions about collaboration between different developers or proposals and how they could potentially benefit that. So what I would like to do is set. So we're July 24th. And we should put something on the books in terms, I know we've met and I appreciate everyone for meeting 3 weeks in a row on a Thursday. That is, for when we typically meet on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, it's tough. So I want to give deference to that, but I do think that we owe it to the community to move with some expediency. And I would say, I would like to see, if possible, we could, of course.
Next Thursday?
Well, our meeting's on the first Wednesday. Could we do the second Thursday or is it the 14th?
Well, the 14th,
Yeah, I'll be out of town then, but I think there's a planning meeting on that. Thomas, when's the planning meeting? Is it the 11th or the 14th? Okay,
I'm not
Um,
available the 14th.
yeah,
I know summer sucks.
yeah, summer sucks, but we don't want to keep pushing this off.
But 2 weeks from
Available.
now is the 7th.
I know,
Is that doable?
Yeah, I mean, we got.
Yeah.
So we'll do it. I'll
Yeah.
do it. It's gonna be tough. but
if we can all sing happy birthday to my daughter.
oh, no,
Turn 10.
we can't do that.
So does the 7th work for everybody?
The seventh?
Would prefer if we not mess up a
It's-
birthday for Jonathan, that would be bad.
I'm seeing varying reports from the audience of whether I should move forward or not. Let me see.
I mean, a Wednesday or a Tuesday,
Can we change the time to accommodate that? John?
Wednesday.
Five,
yeah, Wednesday's fine.
Do it earlier?
do 5 instead of 6?
I was gonna say Wednesday, the 6th.
Yeah,
I can't the 6th because that's our development review board meeting.
And I gotta resign.
Design review board, so that's out.
That's a little.
Tuesday?
Tuesday is the first select board. So the 5th is the select board meeting, 6th is DAB and DRB. The 7th is available.
7.
the 4th?
What about Monday, the 4th?
Yeah, Monday the 4th. Perfect.
I don't see anything. Let me check the town calendar real quick. There is nothing on the calendar.
That's ideal for me.
All right. I can
Yeah.
do- I
Wow,
think I can.
Yep.
we talk it out enough.
I'll just cancel the other thing.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay, so let's set our next meeting for Monday, August 4th. Let's meet again at 5:30. That's where
5:30?
5:30, is that okay?
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
And the goal of this meeting would be both to have criteria already available, like we think about it, look at the proposals, if there's anything that needs to happen, that get it to me by the end of this month, so by the 31st. Right? Yes, the
Well,
31st.
the problem is if it would be handy to have whatever questions we have.
Oh, yeah.
from the applicants, if we could have it next week at the latest.
Right.
So we can review it before we come to the meeting, so we're not.
Correct. No, that's what I was gonna say. If you can get to me by Thursday of next week, any questions individually, bring them to me. I will present them to the groups and ask that we get an answer before our meeting on the 4th. Now,
It's only a couple of days after
it
Thursday.
it is, but they,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
hopefully they will be questions that they should have answers to, or quite frankly, not. We're not going to be asking for them to, build an entire plot plan and
Create a proposal.
so with that being said, I think it also helps us to put a target on when we want to make a decision by. And I know it could be difficult because we could get into next the next meeting and we could find out that, you know, we're not ready, but it is important that we keep moving this along. And is it amenable that we would look at by the end of August? Before September 1st, we would have a decision,
For that?
make a recommendation.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Would you be open for any collaboration with the Energy Committee?
That's actually what I was going to say. I would appreciate if you could, I mean, you guys have come to the meetings, so I absolutely think that it'd be beneficial to come on the 4th. Because we would likely be asking your input as well. I know you've already provided us with a memo.
Yeah.
But
One of our members, Jonathan Grant, actually working on what you loosely call a rubric.
sorry, Carl, they can't hear you.
One of the Energy Committee members, Jonathan Grant, is working on a rubric, you know, whereby you would set out the criteria that you want. Each proposal would be ranked, you know, does it meet that criteria or not?
Well, just so I'm clear, but we are talking about criteria that goes beyond what the state requirement is, which is the stretch code, correct?
Like the town.
I understand, but you're going above and, just to be clear, you're going above and beyond what the state requirements would be looking at.
No, it'd be things like percentage of affordable housing.
I thought, were we talking about energy at this point?
No.
Okay.
It's useful to have a rubric, having you judge one proposal from the other.
Yes, I agree. And that's actually something I would like to, if you want to get him in contact with me sooner, because that's something I've already started to put together.
But it's also going to be your memo, right?
And I will make an effort. Katie Dixon in the office has made fantastic strides on the website. And I want to make sure that any memos that we've received, Paul, you also presented a memo for your group, that all of that is available in one location on the website, so that between now and the 4th, anyone can review it as necessary. Okay? Cool. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for bearing the heat, and we'll see hopefully everyone back on August 4th at 5:30, and that will be here. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Proposals and things will be